Eli had always thought life on Earth was simple. Days passed in a quiet rhythm of work, study, and small adventures in the city where he lived. Yet nothing in his ordinary life could have prepared him for the day an invitation arrived from the stars. It was unlike anything he had seen before, a glowing, translucent card that hovered above his desk, projecting words in perfect clarity. Human, you are invited to participate in the grand selection. Your presence is required. He had studied theoretical physics, robotics, and even some basic astronavigation, but nothing in his life had prepared him to actually leave Earth. His mind raced with questions. Why me? Why a human? What is the grand selection? But before he could dwell too long, the room shimmered and the walls around him dissolved into sparkling light. When the light faded, Eli found himself standing on a platform that seemed to float in the void of space. Stars stretched infinitely in every direction, twinkling in ways he had never seen. The platform was circular, made of a smooth material that seemed to hum slightly under his feet. Around him, dozens of beings moved with grace and purpose. They were humanoid, yet unmistakably alien. Their skin had subtle colors that shifted with their emotions, their eyes were bright and reflective, and their movements had a fluidity humans could never hope to achieve. A tall figure approached him, her presence commanding yet serene. Her skin shimmered with soft golden hues, and her eyes reflected both intelligence and curiosity. She spoke in a voice that resonated directly in his mind, not through sound. "Welcome, Eli of Earth. I am Leora, the coordinator of the Grand Selection. You have been chosen for a unique opportunity. Today you will stand among the greatest minds of the Erythian Empire. You may select any princess to be your ally." He had read stories of humans meeting other species in fiction, but he never imagined this. He looked at the gathered princesses, and each one was a marvel of grace and power. Some hovered above the ground effortlessly. Some had glowing patterns along their bodies that pulsed with energy. Each of them exuded confidence, command, and knowledge that made him feel very small. The other humans present, there were only a handful, looked tense, uncertain. Many of them were scientists, engineers, or diplomats, but none had the confidence Eli felt in his heart. Not because he believed himself better, but because he knew something they did not. Humans had a strange way of turning impossible situations into opportunity. Leora gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air, showing profiles of each princess. Their achievements, skills, and abilities were listed in intricate detail. Eli's eyes scanned over them: telepathy, technomancy, unmatched strategy, diplomacy, mastery over vast fleets. Each was impressive, each one worthy of respect. He felt the weight of expectations settle on his shoulders. The aliens around him whispered among themselves, curious how a human would act. They did not expect humans to grasp the complexities of their empire or the intricacies of their challenges. Most of them assumed the human would falter under pressure. Eli stepped forward, his mind working quickly. He studied each princess, looking beyond their listed accomplishments. One stood out not for her power, not for her skill, but for her gaze. She seemed quiet, almost hidden in the crowd of brilliance. Her name was Ceres, and her profile showed she was the youngest princess, considered unremarkable by most. But her eyes were sharp, attentive, and full of curiosity. The moment of choice arrived. Leora's voice resonated through the platform. "Human, you may select any princess. Choose wisely." He wanted someone who could grow alongside him, someone whose hidden potential might shine if given the right opportunity. His gaze returned to Ceres, the quiet princess who observed everything, who seemed to understand without speaking, who did not try to impress anyone but still radiated intelligence and curiosity. "I choose Ceres," he said firmly. A ripple of surprise passed through the assembly. Aliens murmured in disbelief. Choosing Ceres was unexpected. Many whispered to each other, questioning his judgment. The court had been certain he would select one of the top princesses, someone dazzling and formidable. Yet Eli's choice was deliberate, and there was a quiet confidence in his voice that silenced the whispers. Ceres blinked, her expression a mixture of surprise and intrigue. She stepped forward, her voice soft but clear in his mind. "You choose me. You select for potential." Now the assembly observed the pair, the human who dared choose the overlooked princess and the princess who accepted him without hesitation. Discussions began about potential alliances, compatibility, and what this choice might mean for the Empire. After the formalities, Ceres led Eli to a quiet section of the platform overlooking the void of stars. "Most humans," she said slowly, "I assume they fear us or they are dazzled by what they see. But you do not act afraid. Why?" I want to understand you, and maybe show you something about humans you have not yet considered. Sometimes in ways no one expects. That is our strength. Yet in that moment, he also felt something powerful, the potential to change perceptions, to show a galaxy that humans were more than simple beings. With Saris by his side, he felt that the impossible might be possible. Their conversation was interrupted by the approach of Leora. "The trials will begin soon," she said. "You must prepare. The grand selection is not only ceremonial. It is a test of intellect, strategy, and courage. Your choices will reflect not only on yourselves, but on all humans." As the first trials approached, he looked at Saris. "Are you ready?" he asked. Saris met his gaze, determination replacing her earlier quiet reserve. "I am ready," she said, "and so should you be. Together we might surprise them all." But humans had a history of facing overwhelming odds and finding unexpected paths to success. And now, with a princess who saw potential where others saw weakness, he felt an unusual certainty. Somewhere in the depths of the stars, a galaxy full of beings more advanced than Earth watched. They had expectations, assumptions, and doubt. But Eli carried something they could not predict, a human mind, resourceful, curious, and determined. And alongside him, a princess whose quiet brilliance had been overlooked. Together, they were ready to challenge every expectation. As the platform shifted and the first simulation room opened, Eli felt a spark of excitement. The stars outside seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that was a mistake the galaxy was about to regret. And in that moment, Eli understood the truth he had always felt. Humans may be fragile, but we are also unyielding, adaptable, and surprising. The grand selection had begun, and for the first time, a human had chosen not just to survive, but to thrive. The simulation chamber opened like a door to another world. Eli stepped forward with Saris beside him, feeling the subtle hum of alien technology beneath his feet. The floor glowed faintly, mapping out grids and pathways that shifted as if alive. Around them, other participants were already moving, some walking gracefully, others hovering, each aware of the rules of the grand selection. Saris led him to a corner of the chamber. She had a calmness about her that contrasted with the nervous energy he could sense in the humans and aliens alike. "You must understand," she said softly. "This is more than a game. The trials test not only strength, but creativity, strategy, and perception. Many fail because they rely on what is obvious, what is expected. Then we'll focus on what isn't obvious." A voice echoed in the chamber, resonating in everyone's minds. "The trial of adaptation begins. Navigate the terrain, secure the energy nodes, and reach the central beacon. Points will be awarded for speed, creativity, and teamwork. All participants are competing. Human, your first test is to survive and think beyond instinct." Other participants immediately began moving, some dashing toward energy nodes with elegant speed, others attempting to manipulate the floating terrain with mental powers. He noticed one of the top princesses hovering ahead, already glowing with energy as she reached for a node. Saris observed quietly. "Remember, Eli, they move as they expect humans to move. You don't need to match their speed. You need to see differently." Eli's human intuition told him that the crystals could resonate with the energy streams. He handed it to Saris. "Try placing it in the flow. Let's see what happens." Eli grinned. Humans improvised. Humans adapted. They moved quickly along the newly formed path, reaching a node that had previously been unreachable. As they touched it, points were awarded to their side, the chamber acknowledging their clever maneuver. Around them, other participants paused, surprised at the human princess duo's success. Eli felt a thrill of satisfaction. The first lesson was clear. Brute power was not enough. Ingenuity and observation could change the outcome. Saris looked at him with a subtle nod, a quiet acknowledgement of his skill. The trial continued, each segment testing them differently. They had to cross unstable bridges of energy, solve shifting puzzles of light, and navigate illusions that tricked the mind. Each time, Eli relied on logic, improvisation, and creativity. He noticed patterns, calculated risks, and sometimes ignored rules if breaking them offered a better solution. At one point, a floating platform began to collapse under the weight of other participants. Aliens panicked, unsure how to stabilize it. Eli grabbed a crystal shard and wedged it under a support point, holding the platform steady long enough for them to cross. Saris watched, impressed. "Humans think with their hands as well as their minds," she said quietly. "That is unusual." The chamber constantly shifted, presenting new challenges with no warning. The human mind was at a disadvantage in raw speed, but Eli had something else: unpredictability. Aliens expected patterns, humans could break them naturally. As they approached the central beacon, a sudden obstacle appeared. A wide chasm filled with swirling energy currents separated them from the goal. Other participants attempted to leap or fly across, but the currents were too strong. Many were swept back, struggling to regain control. Eli crouched, studying the currents. "The solution isn't to fight it," he said to Saris. "It's to use it." The shards resonated, creating a temporary bridge of stabilized energy. Carefully, he led Saris across. They reached the other side just as the shard bridge dissolved. Points were awarded for ingenuity. The final stretch required a combination of speed and strategy. The central beacon floated above a field of dangerous energy nodes. Some emitted pulses that could disrupt control, while others needed activation in a specific sequence. Eli noticed that the other participants were rushing without strategy, losing points by triggering the wrong nodes. "Timing is everything," he muttered. "We do this slowly but deliberately." They activated nodes in the correct sequence, avoiding hazards, and finally reached the central beacon. The chamber pulsed, acknowledging their success. Eli and Sarah stood side by side, breathing hard but exhilarated. The other participants looked on, some with admiration, some with disbelief. Eli realized something important. Aliens underestimated humans because they measured only strength, speed, or telepathic ability. They did not measure creativity, adaptability, or the ability to think differently. When the trial ended, the chamber dissolved, revealing the stars again. Leora's voice echoed. "Impressive. Human ingenuity exceeds expectation. Princess Saris, you have chosen wisely. Your companion brings value beyond what we anticipated." I couldn't even reach the second node without failing. That evening, Saris and Eli sat on the edge of the platform, looking out at the swirling galaxy below. "Do you think they'll ever see humans differently?" Saris asked. Eli thought for a moment. "Not if we stop at this trial. They need to see it again and again. They need to see humans solve problems they thought impossible." "You have confidence and courage. I see now why I did not hesitate to accept your choice. Perhaps together we can show them more than they imagine." Trials would grow more complex, competitors more formidable, and expectations higher. But with Saris by his side, he felt prepared. Humans had something no other species could claim: unpredictability, resilience, and a willingness to adapt in ways others could not anticipate. The stars sparkled above them like a million possibilities, and Eli realized something profound. This was more than a trial of skill. It was a trial of perception, a test to see whether humans could change the galaxy's understanding of themselves. And he was ready to prove it. "Tomorrow," Sarah said quietly, "we face the next trial. It will test more than strategy. It will test courage, trust, and understanding. Humans don't just survive, we find a way to thrive." The first trial had ended, but the real challenge was just beginning. The next morning, the platform shifted, revealing a new section of the Erythian training complex. This was no ordinary chamber. It was a vast arena, stretching as far as the eyes could see, filled with shifting landscapes, floating structures, and holographic simulations that challenged the mind and body. Eli felt a thrill of anticipation. The first trial had been impressive, but this, the trial of champions, was something else entirely. The voice of Leora echoed in their minds. "This trial is designed to test strategy, leadership, and adaptability under pressure. You will face opponents from across the galaxy. Each champion has been trained for years in combat, diplomacy, and survival. Human, your task is to prove that your species is more than primitive. Princess Saris, your role is to support, observe, and collaborate. Victory will not come from strength alone." Aliens of all shapes and sizes, from towering beings with crystalline limbs to small, nimble creatures with advanced technological implants, prepared themselves. Many glanced at him with skepticism, whispering among themselves. Humans were rare in this selection, and even more rare to see taking initiative. Saris walked beside him, her posture calm but her eyes sharp. "Do not underestimate them, Eli," she said. "Each champion is trained to anticipate weakness. Humans are predictable to them. You must prove that unpredictability is a strength." Nothing could replace quick thinking, but sometimes a small invention or clever application could change everything. The trial began. Holographic doors opened, and participants were transported to a sprawling landscape of towers, cliffs, and floating bridges. Energy nodes dotted the terrain, and teams were assigned to capture them. Points were awarded for efficiency, strategy, and teamwork. Other teams dashed forward, some using raw strength to overpower obstacles, others using psychic or technological skills to manipulate the environment. Eli and Saris moved cautiously at first, observing patterns. Many alien champions repeated predictable strategies, moving in straight lines or relying solely on power. Humans did not need power, they needed insight. "Look at the energy flows," Eli whispered. "They're reacting to the champions' movements. We can redirect them, create paths, and control the battlefield without direct confrontation." Saris, observing, applied her subtle telepathy to sense where opponents might strike, guiding Eli's decisions. Slowly, they captured their first nodes while staying relatively safe. A rival team, led by Princess Vera, a renowned tactician with unmatched speed and precision, noticed their progress. Vera smirked, confident in her superiority. "Do not waste your time with human tricks," she said. "They are weak and limited." Eli paused. He scanned the illusions, noting subtle patterns, flickers, energy pulses, and reflections that revealed the real nodes. Saris whispered guidance, and together they moved deliberately, avoiding traps. While others fell into confusion, Eli's human mind thrived in uncertainty, analyzing and adapting. As they progressed, Vera's team attempted an ambush. Champions swooped from above, energy weapons aimed at the duo. Eli ducked, throwing a crystal shard into the air. It resonated with the ambient energy, creating a temporary shield that deflected the attack. Saris followed, using her telepathy to predict the opponent's next moves, allowing them to counter effectively. Other teams watched, surprised. Humans were not supposed to respond so quickly or think so creatively. Eli realized the advantage was not in matching their power, but in being unpredictable. The trial continued with relentless challenges. Participants faced shifting terrain, environmental hazards, and simulated sabotage. Each obstacle tested their adaptability. Eli's approach was simple: observe, analyze, and act. His small inventions, quick thinking, and calm mind allowed him to turn potential failures into victories. At one point, a massive energy storm swept through the arena, threatening to knock participants off floating platforms. Many champions panicked, losing nodes and points. Eli and Saris observed the currents of energy, noting how the storm moved and fluctuated. Using crystal shards as stabilizers and Saris' guidance, they created temporary safe zones, allowing them to navigate the storm with precision. They captured multiple nodes while others struggled. As they approached the central tower, the final stage of the trial, tension rose. Vera's team was ahead in points and now moved aggressively to secure the last nodes. Eli and Saris had to act decisively. Eli studied the environment. The tower was surrounded by a field of energy barriers that required precise timing to cross. Many champions attempted to brute force their way, triggering alarms and losing points. Eli realized the solution was subtle. He placed shards at strategic points, using the barrier's own energy to open a path. Saris moved with him, sensing where he needed support, guiding their route. They reached the central beacon, securing the final points. The arena acknowledged their success. Eli felt a surge of pride, not for personal victory, but for proving that humans, though underestimated, could succeed in a realm designed for the most advanced beings in the galaxy. Vera approached, her expression a mix of frustration and respect. "I underestimated you, human. Your strategies are unconventional but effective. That is something they cannot teach in the Empire. The Empire will take note. You have shown them something they did not expect. But the next trials, they will be harder, stronger opponents, more complex challenges. You are not merely clever, Eli. You are relentless in thought, adaptable in action, and unafraid." The galaxy seemed vast, infinite, and full of possibilities. Eli realized something profound. Humans had the ability to inspire, not through overwhelming power, but through thinking differently, taking risks, and adapting when no one expected it. The platform shifted again, preparing for the next challenge. Eli felt the familiar surge of anticipation. Each trial was more than a test. It was an opportunity to prove that humans were not weak, not primitive, and certainly not to be underestimated. Saris placed a hand lightly on his arm. "Tomorrow," she said, "we face the trial of strategy. It will not only test skill, but judgment, diplomacy, and the ability to anticipate. Are you ready?" "I was born ready. Humans do not just follow rules. We find ways to succeed where others fail. And with you by my side, I believe we can do what no one expects." But the next trials would demand even more. Allies would be tested, rivals would scheme, and every decision could alter the course of the grand selection. Eli took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of challenge. The universe was vast, the empire formidable, and the odds against him high. Yet for the first time, he felt that humans had a place among the stars, not as spectators, not as tools, but as equals, capable of shaping the future with their minds and courage. "Let them watch," Eli said quietly. "Let them see, humans are not what they think, we are something more. And together," she said softly, "we will show them just how much more humans can be." The galaxy was vast, filled with brilliance and danger, but he had something no one else could predict. A human mind, unyielding, adaptable, and determined, paired with a princess who understood its value. And for the first time, he truly believed they could surprise an entire empire. The arena had faded behind them, replaced by the gleaming halls of the Erythian Empire's central citadel. Eli and Sarah stepped into corridors of polished crystal, where light reflected in endless patterns, and every surface seemed alive with subtle energy. They had passed the trial of champions, but the Empire was far from done testing them. Now came a trial of a different kind, a trial that required more than intellect or reflexes. This trial would test judgment, trust, and influence within the court itself. Saras led Eli into a private chamber, a quiet space overlooking a vast city of floating towers and shimmering bridges. "This is where the real test begins," she said softly. "The Empire watches closely. Alliances, choices, and strategies here can change the course of the grand selection. You must navigate carefully. Not only will other humans watch you, but every alien participant will judge your every action." Humans had a history of thriving in unexpected ways. They adapted, improvised, and used creativity as a weapon. The next trial was announced by a projection of Leora's voice. The trial of influence begins. Participants must negotiate alliances, mediate disputes, and secure resources necessary for the Empire's strategic simulations. Points will be awarded for diplomacy, leadership, and effectiveness. Human, your capacity to guide and adapt will be observed. Princess Saras, you must act as both partner and advisor. Missteps could cost more than points. They could damage their reputation or weaken their position in future trials. Their first encounter came quickly. A group of alien participants, led by a cunning commander named Kale, attempted to seize control of a key resource hub. Kale was renowned for his manipulative skills, and he immediately tried to undermine the humans, assuming Eli's inexperience would make him vulnerable. "Human," Kale said, his voice smooth and confident, "you cannot hope to influence outcomes here. The Empire does not bend to human thought." Yet humans have a history of finding ways to succeed in situations where the odds are against them. He listened to their concerns, offered small solutions, and built trust quietly. Saras guided him, her subtle telepathy helping him understand unspoken intentions. Together, they began creating a network of alliances, small, overlooked, but surprisingly effective. Meanwhile, Kale tried to manipulate larger, more visible players, forcing aggressive actions and risky strategies. Eli observed, noted weaknesses, and waited for the right moment. When Kale moved to seize a major energy conduit, Eli subtly redirected resources, offering them to minor participants who then supported his efforts, turning Kale's plan against him without a direct clash. The result was immediate. Kale's maneuver failed, his allies frustrated, and Eli gained points for resource control and strategic influence. It was a subtle victory, one that required patience, observation, and trust-building rather than force. Saras smiled, impressed. "You are not just clever, Eli. You understand people, and influence is power." Humans survive by understanding not just situations, but the beings around them. That is how we turn weakness into strength. Eli relied on principles he had learned on Earth: fairness, empathy, and clarity. He proposed solutions that seemed simple but were effective, surprising alien participants who expected human weakness or rigidity. At one point, a heated argument broke out between two factions over control of a volatile energy nexus. The situation threatened to spiral into chaos, costing points and stability. Eli stepped forward calmly. "If you all redirect a portion of your energy into the stabilizers together," he said, "you can share the nexus without conflict. No one loses control and everyone benefits." Saras looked at him with quiet admiration. "You see solutions others cannot because you do not limit yourself to what is expected. That is rare in this empire." A rival princess named Vera, still bitter from the trial of champions, began openly questioning Ceres' judgment. "Why allow a human to influence such matters?" she said to other participants. "He is inexperienced. He will lead us to failure." Eli has shown he possesses all three. He began using indirect tactics. Instead of confronting rivals directly, he created situations where cooperation was unavoidable. When resources were scarce, he proposed shared solutions that benefited multiple factions. When disputes threatened points, he mediated calmly, appealing to logic and fairness. Slowly, even skeptics began to recognize the value of his approach. One evening, after a particularly tense session, Ceres and Eli retreated to a quiet balcony overlooking the glowing city. "The court is more complicated than any arena," Eli said quietly. "Strategy alone is not enough. Here, influence, perception, and trust matter as much as skill. Others may rely on rules or power, but you adapt, you improvise, and you see opportunity where others see risk. That is extraordinary. Perhaps together, we are stronger than anyone expected." Eli acted quickly, coordinating minor participants, redirecting energy flows, and using strategic alliances he had built to stabilize the network. The effort required both human ingenuity and Ceres' insight into alien thought patterns. When the crisis ended, the system acknowledged their success. Points were awarded for diplomacy, leadership, and effectiveness. Even Vera had to admit Eli's approach was clever. "I did not expect a human to manage that so effectively," she muttered under her breath. Leora's voice echoed again. "Human, your influence and judgment have exceeded expectations. Princess Ceres, your insight in partnership with the human has demonstrated wisdom and adaptability." The Empire observes with interest. Many will watch and question, but the results speak for themselves. Your mind, your judgment, your courage, humans may be more than the Empire believes. But he knew the challenges ahead would be even greater. Tests of courage, strategy, and resilience that would push them to the limits. The city outside shimmered with the light of distant stars, vast and infinite. Eli realized that humans were small in the universe, yet capable of leaving an impact far beyond what anyone anticipated. He had begun to show the Empire that intelligence, adaptability, and courage could rival any technological or psychic ability. "Tomorrow," Ceres said softly, "we face the final stages of the grand selection. The trials will test everything we have learned and more. Are you ready?" "I am ready. Humans do not just survive, we find ways to thrive. And with you by my side, I know we can surpass every expectation." Eli knew that what lay ahead would define not only their success in the grand selection, but the way the galaxy viewed humanity forever. Together, Eli and Ceres watched the horizon, knowing that they had begun a journey that would test their minds, hearts, and trust. And for the first time, Eli truly felt that humans were ready, not just to survive among the stars, but to leave a mark that no one could ignore. The grand selection had reached its final stage. Eli and Ceres stood at the edge of a colossal observation platform, overlooking a vast simulation arena that combined all the previous trials into one ultimate challenge. Floating islands, shifting energy fields, and holographic obstacles stretched as far as the eye could see. Participants from across the galaxy had gathered for the climax, each determined to claim victory, each confident in their superiority. Leora's voice resonated in their minds. "Final trial begins. You must navigate a multi-level simulation that tests intellect, strategy, courage, and leadership. Success will require ingenuity, collaboration, and the ability to anticipate outcomes beyond your opponent's expectations. Human, your capacity to adapt will be observed more closely than ever. Princess Ceres, your role is vital. Work together wisely." This trial would combine every challenge they had faced: physical obstacles, strategic puzzles, resource management, and social negotiation. The stakes were higher than ever. Points, reputation, and influence across the Empire depended on success. Ceres placed a hand lightly on his arm. "Remember everything we've learned. Observation, adaptability, and trust will guide us. The Empire watches every move. Missteps could be costly." The simulation was dynamic, responding to each action in real time. Mistakes were punished swiftly, and victory required foresight, not brute strength. Eli and Ceres began their approach methodically. Unlike other participants who rushed into action, Eli studied patterns first. He noticed energy currents flowing between platforms, predictable movements of rival teams, and subtle clues in the terrain that indicated hidden opportunities. Saris complimented him perfectly, sensing intentions of others and providing insight that guided his decisions. Their first task was to secure multiple energy nodes in a heavily contested sector. Competitors attempted aggressive tactics, relying on speed and power. Eli smiled quietly. Humans did not need to outpace them. Humans needed to outthink them. He used small crystal devices to redirect energy streams, creating temporary bridges and shields. Saris guided him to less obvious nodes, avoiding direct conflict but securing points efficiently. As they progressed, a rival team led by Princess Vera attempted to corner them. Vera had studied Eli's previous strategies and hoped to exploit human predictability. She advanced aggressively, sending her best participants to cut off their path. Eli paused, observing her tactics. He realized her movements followed logical patterns, fast, precise, and bold, but rigid. Humans could exploit rigidity. He whispered to Saris, "Follow my lead. We'll turn their strength against them." Their points increased steadily, and their progress drew attention from other participants who began reconsidering their strategies. The next stage required navigating a field of unstable platforms suspended above a swirling vortex of energy. Missteps would result in penalties and loss of position. Many participants hesitated, uncertain of timing and placement. Eli examined the platforms, noticing subtle vibrations indicating stability. He directed Saris, coordinating movement with precision. Together, they crossed safely, demonstrating a combination of observation, timing, and trust. Midway through the trial, a sudden scenario appeared, a simulated crisis that threatened to collapse multiple sectors simultaneously. Energy nodes fluctuated violently, and many participants scrambled in panic. Eli and Saris assessed the situation quickly. Direct intervention was risky. Instead, Eli identified key points where minor adjustments could stabilize larger areas. Using crystal shards to redirect energy and Saris, insight into opponents' intentions, they prevented the collapse, earning high points for strategy and foresight. As the simulation progressed, alliances became crucial. Some teams approached Eli and Saris, proposing temporary cooperation to secure high-value nodes. Eli evaluated each offer carefully, selecting alliances that maximized advantage while minimizing risk. Saris advised subtly, using her telepathy to sense hidden motives and potential betrayals. Their human-alien collaboration became a model of efficiency, subtly manipulating events without overt confrontation. The climax approached. The final sector contained the central beacon, heavily guarded by obstacles, rival participants, and a complex network of energy nodes. Many teams rushed forward recklessly. Eli paused, studying the layout. A direct approach would fail. The solution required creativity, observation, and precise coordination. He whispered to Saris, "We'll do this together using the environment, trust me." They moved efficiently, capturing intermediate nodes while others struggled. Finally, they reached the central beacon. With careful timing, Eli activated the beacon while Saris neutralized surrounding hazards using her subtle powers. The system recognized their success instantly, awarding maximum points. The arena pulsed, signaling the completion of the final trial. Other participants looked on, stunned. Humans had not only survived the ultimate test, they had excelled. Vera's expression reflected disbelief. Eli's calm, strategic approach had outmatched brute force, speed, and aggression. Leora's voice echoed throughout the simulation. "Human, Princess Saris, your performance has exceeded all expectations. You have demonstrated intelligence, adaptability, strategy, and leadership. The grand selection is complete. The Empire recognizes the value humans bring, not only as allies but as equals capable of shaping the future." But the real triumph was not points or recognition. It was proving that humans could stand alongside the most advanced beings in the galaxy, using ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. Saris turned to him, her eyes reflecting admiration and respect. "You have done more than succeed, Eli. You have changed perceptions. Humans are no longer underestimated. They are seen as capable, intelligent, and formidable." Aliens who had doubted humans now observed with respect. Leaders, strategists, and participants from across the Empire acknowledged that humans could contribute in ways beyond expectation. Eli's ingenuity, combined with Saris' insight, had created results no one could ignore. Later, in a quiet chamber overlooking the galaxy, Saris and Eli stood together. "You chose me," Saris said softly. At the beginning, when the Empire expected someone else. And look where we are now. I trust your judgment completely. That's what humans do. We recognize opportunity, adapt, and succeed. Humans had survived countless challenges, adapted to impossible odds, and thrived in environments that others could not imagine. Now, in this vast empire, they had proven their value not through dominance, but through intelligence, creativity, and resilience. The stars outside shimmered like a million possibilities. Eli realized that the grand selection was more than a trial, it was a moment of transformation. Humans were no longer spectators. They were participants, innovators, and allies capable of leaving an impact across the galaxy. Saris smiled, sensing his thoughts. Are you ready for what comes next? We've proven ourselves once, he said. The Empire now knows humans are more than underestimated, and together we can achieve even more. Humanity thrives by thinking, adapting, and never giving up. That is who we are. And as they stood together, hand in hand, Eli realized the truth of what had always driven humans forward. It was not power, technology, or force. It was courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding determination to survive, adapt, and thrive. The grand selection had ended, but a new journey had begun. A journey that would show the galaxy the true strength of humanity. And in that moment, Eli looked at Saris and said quietly, I chose you.